You are watching Ordinaire. Today's edition, 2020 in Fiction, where we will look at predictions and renditions of the modern age. Brought to life from the pages of scripts, manga, design documents, and even tabletop RPG manuals. Setting fictional works in an alternate history, or rather, an alternate future, is a writing trope that dates back to the era of Emperor Octavian and blossomed following the technical revolutions of the 20th century. The works we will cover today are no older than the Cold War, and despite their recentness, all envision a 2020 quite different than the one we began. Akira. We begin our journey with the most accurate prediction from the vision of Katsuhiro Otomo, an influential manga series turned influential film phenomenon, Akira, first printed in 1982. Akira posits itself as a post-World War III narrative, where Tokyo was destroyed in the 80s, not by a nuclear bomb like Hiroshima and Nagasaki before it, but by the unleashing of psychic powers by the titular character. This results in the creation of Neo-Tokyo, a city that differs substantially from the Japanese culture that preceded it. The nuclear family has been abandoned, resulting in greater individualism, but with it, an increase in gang activity, as many of the citizens were former orphans. Over 30 years after its release on September 7, 2013, and much to the surprise of Akira fans all around the world, the Olympic Committee announced that Tokyo would be hosting the 2020 Olympics. Otomo had, by some random chance, predicted this happening in his alternate version of the city, Neo-Tokyo. Reign of Fire. Few storytellers try to cross the genre of science fiction with fantasy, let alone set their genre blend in the near future, which is exactly what director Rob Bauman took on with the 2002 film Reign of Fire. In this film, humans awaken a slumbering dragon while constructing the London Underground, creatures which claim the blame for all major extinctions. The inciting incident occurs in present-day 2002, and all the rising action is set in our present day, resulting in a film that paints a grim image of London at the start of the new decade. Fire-breathing monsters exist in our world only as metaphor, yet the ones depicted in the movie are just as ruthless as those of our reality. To tell a story with more in common with a tale from the Dark Ages than any science fiction work celebrated today marks a unique take on the year 2020. Going from a society just finally beginning the internet revolution to one where the remaining military technology is rendered obsolete provides a powerful allegory to the dangers forewarned by the doomsday clock of our timeline, ticking ever closer to midnight. Sealab 2020. Debuting in the fall of 1972, 2 years after the creation of the Environmental Protection Agency, the Hanna-Barbera cartoon Sealab 2020 perfectly captured the ecological zeitgeist of the time and combined it with the childlike optimism for the future. The show illustrated a future that is ravaged by the dangers of radioactive waste, frenzied aquatic life, careless offshore oil drilling, and deep-sea mining practices.
If it's far enough from Sealab so that harm would be minimized if there were an accident, that's where we'll go for our oil. Now how about that coffee? Allow me, Mr. Bracken.
Instead of taking a radical stance against these practices, the scientist characters of the show try to find harmony between their quest for knowledge and the quest for profit of each antagonist. By the dawn of the show, Jacques Cousteau was well into his filmography, which captured the public's concern and fascination with what lies at the bottom of the ocean. Since its brief run began, underwater mining went from being an unrealized possibility to the future of resource extraction. Despite multiple attempts to make it a profitable venture in the 1900s, it wasn't until the end of the 2010s that it became a feasible mining method. Cyberpunk 2020. From the mind of Mike Pondsmith, and drafted following the dawn of a new wave of science fiction in the mid-1980s, came the Cyberpunk tabletop RPG series. The game brings to life the anxieties of technology that are becoming a bigger part of our reality each day. In the Cyberpunk universe, the US has destroyed its middle class, leaving behind a gang-laden lower class and technophilic aristocrats. Corporations have taken over America, having gone to war again and again. The Midwest is laid barren due to plagues and radiation, and cities become a cybernetic paradise for any profiteering conman. While the first edition was based in 2013, the more popular sequel shows a 2020 revolutionized by the advent of the first true artificial intelligence. The world of Cyberpunk lacks ethical concerns about cloning and how humans interface with technology, which separate it from questions society has been grappling with. The us versus them mentality that consumes all aspects of the cyberpunk world are dangers we still face today. Conclusion. The year 2020, for whatever reason, was quite significant in the minds of science fiction writers at the end of the 20th century. From post-apocalyptic hellscapes and cybernetic dystopias to underwater societies, the events and locales envisioned encompassed their era's anxieties for the future. Whether those anxieties manifested as a future destroyed by mankind himself, or by a superior manifestation of mankind, or perhaps even by something non-human altogether, they all communicate an astute awareness of the role technology plays in this outcome. Admittedly, the 2020 of our timeline had a rocky start, and only time will tell if it will succumb to the fears of work like Akira or Cyberpunk, or if optimism will win out as in Sealab. Personally, I welcome our fire-breathing overlords. This has been 2020 in Fiction, brought to you by Ordinaire.